Okay, I got to pull up my slides then.
No, you don't yet. Just talk for that.
Okay. Hey everyone, it is Tom with On-Campus College Planning. We're going to be starting this webinar very, very soon. College Planning for Quaranteens. I've got Stephanie Barth on the other line. Stephanie's out in sunny Arizona at the moment. And if you want to, go ahead and add maybe where you're watching from and how old your student might be, or if you're a student on Facebook, hanging out with us parents, that's great too. Let us know where you're from. A bunch of you have asked questions already, and we want you to continue to post those. We'll do our best to address all the questions that are already in there throughout the presentation and to kind of make note of that. If you want a clarification or you've got a further question, go ahead and post that as well. Can I pull up the slides now? Okay. All right. All right, the technical stuff makes me nervous. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got a mic and I'm trying to lean into it, eat the mic as they say in radio, if you're in radio. We're gonna jump in because we have a lot to cover. One thing I wanna just share with you, so Hillary, who's my producer in the other office, Hillary and I, we're going steady, very steady for almost 25 years. We've got two kids that are dealing with this, a soon to be senior in college and hopefully a freshman in college in the fall. And Stephanie's dealing with this too. She has two college freshmen from different universities, and she's got a college sophomore. So we understand the things that you guys are going through, and we're having a lot of these same discussions as well. I'm going to jump in and we're going to be talking a lot. Our goals for tonight are really to give you some great information so that you can make some decisions and really understand what is changing and then also what has stayed the same. And a lot of things have not changed. That might be surprising. You might think that everything's changed, but it's just not true. And the most important thing is we want you to be able to take some action with the things that we're sharing for you tonight. And a lot of these will be very grade specific based. So we're going to talk about standardized test prep, college search, applications, recruiting things, and give you some deets, as the kids say, on what to do based on different grade levels as well. We're also going to share just a little bit at the end, the last 5 minutes or so, talk about some ways we can help you. This is not a sales presentation, however. Our agenda then for tonight, please take notes, please ask questions. As I said, let us know. Hillary will be fielding the questions and we want to make sure that we get to all of them. So there's the four main categories that I mentioned, and we're going to go through in that order. Stephanie's going to be handling the college-bound athletes. I'm going to talk about the other things. Stephanie is our expert on student athletes and the recruiting process, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about her background. She's also a fabulous test prep coach. I'm a test prep coach, and I'm pretty good too. And I handle all the college planning, and I'm the founder and one of the owners of this business. And in all of these, it's going to be about what has changed, what stays the same, and based on those two things, what are some things that we can do right now to move forward in this process? So let's talk first about what hasn't changed. You see these kinds of articles all the time, not just in times of COVID, but is a college degree worth it or not? I'm not here to sell you on the value of a college degree. You're obviously thinking about this for your kids, or you're a student that's thinking about it. And we all know that it's a very incredibly powerful tool. There's all sorts of research about the return on investment, the money that you spend. And yes, college is expensive, but you're going to earn a lot more over your lifetime. And just as important, and maybe more important, the things that you will learn and really the person that you're going to become. And we want to focus on not just the getting into college, but how do we make this a great experience? College isn't really the end goal. It's just a tool. And I think that's something that hasn't changed. And that's good to focus on that as well. I like to say this: it's not the major that gets you the job. Whoops! It's your ability to use PowerPoints. Pardon me, folks. We're going to go back real quickly. Sorry about that. I went to the end. I'll get there. I'll get there. Please don't unlike us. Okay. All right. This seemed like a smart thing to say, so I'm going to say it again. It's not the major that gets you the job. It's the person that you become and your technical skills as well. And this, while it's just a paper, I don't buy that. It better be more than just a piece of paper. Otherwise, we really are wasting a lot of time, energy, and money. And throughout all this, not in an antagonistic way, but I want you to focus on the fact that you are a consumer. All right. And I don't want this to be us versus them, the evil colleges and we're great or whatever. This is, we all want many of the same things. And so I want to think about this in part as the fact that we are going to be paying for college education. We all we want what's best, and colleges want what's best also. So we're not on opposite sides of there. And there are great options out there. It really helps if you know exactly what you're looking for, right? And you can figure that out. We're going to talk about the University of You concept, okay? And that's something that we developed to help you figure out exactly what that is. Because one of the most common questions I get is, well, how do we get started if I don't know what my major is, or I don't know where I want to go, or I don't want a bigger, small university? There are a lot of ways to get started, even if you don't have those specifics, and we can add to those things. You also have a lot more options if you spend the time. So the last thing I want anyone to do is just stop doing everything. I want you to continue to move forward. We're going to show you ways that you can do that. Other things that haven't changed. For the most part, colleges are still going to be looking at these top 5 criteria. And I always preface this by saying, look, every college is going to be a little bit different. This is if you take all 4,000 colleges and sort of throw them into a blender and really figure out what are the things that you look for in order. Everybody's going to be looking at curriculum and cumulative GPA first. Those are always the most important things. Standardized test scores have historically been the third most important thing. I'm going to address the idea of test optional and how that fits into this. The application essays that you write when you're applying, juniors, listen up for that, and the things that you do, and a long list of other things. But these are the primary criteria, and there's nothing to suggest that that hasn't changed. And most admissions is still largely data driven. And by that, I mean, it's really these top 3 things that kind of rise to the top, and the strong numbers are going to keep you in consideration longer. All right. So it will always benefit you to have good numbers like that. One of the biggest things that has changed is a lot of schools have gone pass, no pass, or pass, fail. So instead of applying after my junior year and having 3 years of a cumulative GPA, a lot of students are going to have something that looks a little bit more like this, right? It's a cumulative GPA, but then what am I going to do? How am I going to stay competitive, et cetera, if my school decided to go pass, fail in the second semester? A couple things here. When you apply to schools, you're generally sending what's called a school report, especially if you're applying through the common application. And a school report is something that your guidance counselor submits. And he, she, or they are not writing a letter of recommendation for you. A school report is simply a snapshot, kind of a one-page snapshot of your school, not just where it's located, but how many students are there, how many AP courses do they offer, honors, what's the grading scale? Is it weighted GPA? Is it an IB curriculum? All of those things. And part of that is going to be, what did we do second semester? So if you feel like, well, I'm going to be behind because my school chose to do this, that's not the case. What does test optional mean then? Well, it doesn't mean that test optional colleges won't look at your ACT or SAT scores. And that's one of the biggest myths that I've heard out there, is people think that that has just gone away, and it hasn't. There are more colleges now that are test optional, but it's still a minority, right? There are about 50 that within the last month or so have chosen, 50 out of approximately 4,000 or so that have chosen to go test optional. And there's been a big chunk before. But I don't necessarily know that all of my colleges are going to be test optional. And one of the questions that people had is, well, if I've got good scores already, I'm a junior, I've already finished up my testing, is that even going to benefit me? or are they just going to throw that out? No, strong test scores will always be considered, and they will always help you in terms of admissions and your chances for merit aid. And merit aid is financial aid that is not based on finances. It's based largely on GPA, test scores, other wonderful things that you've done. And again, if all of your schools are test optional and your scores aren't where they want to be, maybe you're okay. But a greater chance is that some of your schools are still going to require those standardized tests. So when we get to the standardized test section, I'm going to present some things that you can think about in terms of a personalized plan of how you might test. So game on for that as well. Big takeaway for the evening. I'm going to be saying this a lot. The students and families who do what they can to move forward, you're going to be so much better prepared, and you're going to have more options regardless of what happens. And I'd be lying to you if I had another slide coming up that says this is exactly what's going to happen, because things are changing, right? And we recognize that, and we're trying to put out information as fast as we can. And we wanted to put out some Facebook Lives this past week. We did some, and we held off to kind of pull some of these together for you. But this is the big takeaway, is we want to think about what we still can do. And in some cases, students, you may have some extra time on your hands, and we can fast forward and even use this as an opportunity to get some things started right away. So let's talk about this piece, college campus visits and research. So what has changed? Well, no one is accepting on-campus visits. Someone actually called me and asked, do you think we could just like drive to a campus and walk around if there's no one there? And I said, I don't have like the police on speakerphone or anything like that. So you can do whatever you want if you want to do that. But mainly we're going to be looking at some online options. And I have to hand it to the colleges. They have really stepped up with some fantastic resources. Now, many, if not most colleges already had some type of virtual tour available. And a lot of them, when you click on it, you'll see You Visit. And it's a third-party company that does an excellent job of working with colleges to create this kind of online virtual experience. And there's a little person that shows up and sort of walks around with you. And it's pretty cute. I usually mute the person, but they're doing more than that. And I'm going to show you a few examples of that in just a second. So that absolutely is different. But what's the same? This is still the single most important way to get to know more about a college, is to take a visit. So if we can't go out there in person, we're going to find the ways to virtually visit and do some research ahead of time. I'm going to talk more about that. And yeah, we all wish we could get out there. Nobody likes to visit college campuses more than me. My next campus visit will be number 136, and those are all in person, by the way. But just because we don't know how to do everything and we don't know all the things that we're looking for shouldn't prevent us from doing some things, right? I'm always amazed at how long people wait to start thinking about colleges or visiting them. So I'm of an age 55 where I start to think about retirement a little bit, and it sounds pretty good. And I'm a long ways away from that. And I know I'm not looking at my IRA statements or anything like that, but it's fun just to think and plan about that. So if it's fun for a 15 or even a 14-year-old to think about college, because hopefully it's not the best 4 years of your life, but hopefully it's a really good 4 years of your life, why wouldn't we want to start exploring that? And as parents, why wouldn't we want to share some of the things that we did that made a great experience, and some of the things that maybe didn't work as well, and kind of pass that along to them as well? So let's move forward in that. So freshmen, here's the deal. I'm going to double dog dare you, and you have to respond to a double dog dare. It's in the US Constitution. I'm going to double dog dare you to take your first virtual campus tour this next week. Sorry for the pointy finger, right? Any college, literally any college. And I guess I'd even encourage you, if you live within an area and you're pretty close to a college and mom went there or dad went there, or you think you know a lot about it, take the virtual tour, see what you learned about it, right? Here, we're in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. We're not too far away from UW-Madison and Edgewood College and some other schools. And I'm always, always amazed at how many people go to a college and have never toured there or don't take the time to do that. And everyone that goes comes back from the tour and says, that was an amazing experience and I learned a lot. And sophomores, just because we're bigger and we're taller, two visits in the next couple of weeks. Get ahead of the crowd. This is a great time to fast forward some of this stuff, because yeah, some of you are still pushing it pretty hard. Some of you have a little bit of extra time. Juniors, fill your shopping cart. I'm going to make a couple of references to shopping. It's not something that I do very often. My wardrobe shows that as well, but there's some good references for that. And the idea here is that just like Amazon, where I can put something into my shopping cart, that's what I should be thinking about as a high school junior, sophomore, or even freshman. You get really jacked up about some school, put it up in your shopping cart. Make record of that. Start a little spreadsheet, little notes, whatever it might be. And then we add to those, because this is not something where I can kind of, click the shopping cart and check out right now. You can't go to a college until you apply to the college and the college says, yes, you can go to this college. So your job, juniors, is to fill up that shopping cart. And if you got maybe one or two, find others that are like it or something that's completely different that you can add in there as well. Seniors, right? Seniors, there's some great news for you and not as good news for you. If you're still deciding, you need to use those tools that are available and reach out to the colleges. We're talking about virtual visits here. There is nothing preventing you from calling on your phone. Your phone can actually make phone calls, but calling the admissions. It's down to 2 schools. I absolutely would be doing everything I could, taking the virtual visits. Let me show you an example of this. I would be connecting with these people. Here's Tulane, and you can chat live with a Tulane representative. I don't particularly like chats, but it's a good start, right? And sometimes that's a way to get one question answered. And they're doing, virtual sessions for admitted students. Is it as good as the real thing? No. Look, we're dealing with a senior who's kind of crabby because he doesn't get to go to summer orientation, but we need to deal with that and we need to take the steps that we normally would. Virtual information sessions. So they're stacking these on top of the things that they already had. There's a lot of things available for seniors, and I'm reading on different boards and people posting, how are we ever going to make a decision if we haven't visited the college? You have to do your best, right? We have to do our best to get through this, and you may end up making a decision based on proximity or cost or familiarity. There's a good chance that many students are going to end up choosing a college that might be a little bit closer to home. And that is totally up to you. You get to make the decision. You're the consumer here. So let's talk about shopping, right? So college, it is kind of like shopping, and you should go out. Like the worst time to go shopping, this is the dad way of shopping. I need something, I should go shopping. And it's like there's a SWAT team going into the mall to get to something and then to extract the dad as fast as possible. That's not what this is about, right? We need to take our time and we need to go try on some things before we're ready to buy anything, right? And there could be a difference between what you think works for you and what actually does for you. And I won't go through the entire embarrassing story, but you'll get this pretty quickly. Like somehow the security guard wasn't standing there, and I stumbled into a Banana Republic one time at an outlet mall, and that just wasn't a good fit. I walked in and there were pants that looked like they wouldn't fit on one of my arms or something really, really skinny. That's not really how I roll. And you have to be honest with yourself and try on some different things to understand what might be a good fit for you. That's always more fun when you take someone along and you go to the food cart. In other words, try to make this a fun experience as well. Students, have somebody tag along, bring a parent, and do this thing together. All right. So think about the shopping. There are a lot of great online college search tools. This is one of my faves. And I don't have any secret proprietary college search tools when I work with someone in a college search process. I use the same types of tools that you do. And I'm going to show you like 3 of them right away. So this is from College Board. They're the fun folks that give us AP exams and the SAT. And they've got, I think, one of the most user-friendly college search tools out there. Big Future. I always just Google college search, Big Future, takes me right to this. There's our approximately 4,000 options. There's all sorts of things that you can click over on the right side. Play around with this stuff, okay? If you're expecting it to give you the magic college list in 5 easy clicks, here's what my height, weight, and intended major is, it's not going to work that way. And you need to take some things on and off and move it around a little bit until you get used to it. It's just a tool. I much prefer searching for colleges in a college search tool such as this versus just Googling great colleges for psychology majors, because you're going to get a lot of crap coming back at you. So be very careful about that. Another search tool that I think is really good. It's maybe not as quite as bright and sunny, but this is the federal government puts out their College Navigator, and it shows you just a few things over here. And by the way, this whole big school, small school thing, think of this shopping and going to a buffet, all right, a smorgasbord for those of you living in Minnesota, smorgasbord. Take a little bit of a bunch of things the first time to figure out what you like. If you're 100% sure you want a big university, try on something that's a little bit smaller. See if you like it. Compare the differences. What are the real differences? Is it just more students? And is that really what I'm looking for? So play around with these as well. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and hopefully we won't blow up the internet, but I think maybe later this week we need to do a Facebook Live, some kind of a webinar on using these types of tools, and I can kind of walk you through some things. So give me a thumbs up or shout out if you'd be interested in that. One of my favorite online tools is collegedata.com. You would think that I'd be getting kickbacks from these people as many times as I've shared this with parents and students one-on-one and in webinars and live engagements, et cetera, like this. This is just a great way to get to the numbers right away. They're pulling a bunch of data from college websites and they just streamline it for you. So students, create a little collegedata.com account so you don't get as many pop-up ads, and start plugging in colleges. There is also a college search function in this as well, but I mainly use it for things like what's the admission rate, GPAs, and then something we call the middle 50% ACT range. So that just gives me some kind of quick and dirty numbers right away to use. All right, whoops. Going back a little bit. So if you take a step back from those search engines, I think one of the things that you need to think about as you're researching colleges is, despite what I just said about shopping, don't be so quick to just look at the available inventory. Take some time to sort of back up and think about this University of You concept. And this little matrix thing is nothing magical, but it's something that we've used with great effectiveness for students and families to come into work with us on finding the right fit. We really have a lot of dialogue and we talk about these essential categories. What are the things that you absolutely need from your college experience versus what are the things that you want? And this is just a made up student, and I call her Libby, but there are a couple of things I really like about this, because Libby's admitting that what she wants are suite style dorms, but that's not going to be a deal breaker. So she would much prefer to live with like 3 of her best friends with a bathroom in the middle and not have to walk down the hall like the rest of us did 40, 50 years ago, but that's not a deal breaker for her. So start to put some of these things down onto paper, and these need to be done with pencil, not ink, because things are going to change. And you're going to change, but you don't have to know all the answers to start looking into colleges, and start to think about what's that number one thing you wish to gain from your college experience. I got to tell a quick story. So early March, Joe, our 18-year-old, Joe and I went back to 2 colleges. He had been to both before. One of them he had even done a summer camp at, and we were going back for that sort of final visit. And both of them are amazing places. And we got done with one college, and he was talking to Hillary. She was back here at home, and he was telling her about all of the great things. And Hillary did sort of this like ninja thing. She just said, okay, that all sounds really good, Joe. What's your number one thing that you wish to gain from your college experience? And he knew it off the top of his head, and he said it. And I could see him sort of holding that up and then holding up what he just talked about. And the things that he was talking about that were so amazing at one of the colleges weren't really in his number one thing. They were nice to haves, right? And that really helped him get some focus and clarity. One of the things we can start to do as we're looking at colleges, college costs a lot of money, right? But there's some good bargains out there. We can start to think about financial aid. And usually the numbers in terms of who's receiving financial aid might be a little bit better than you assume. For some reason, everybody assumes they'll get no financial aid. And unless this is a bald-faced lie, and it's not, the percentage of full-time undergraduate students at four-year colleges receiving financial aid in the 80s, right? And think of financial aid 2 different ways. The little circle over on the left, it splits it up into the need-based aid, where it does matter what you have in maybe your 529s and your income and things like that for students as well, or merit-based, which is totally divorced from that. And then the other way to think about financial aid are the kind of the three buckets: the grants and scholarships, the money that you don't pay back. Some people call that free. I don't think there's anything free about it if you're earning it. Loans and work study as well. And I like to talk at least a little bit about merit aid, because merit aid is one of the ways that as you're doing research, you can start to open up things that might look really cost prohibitive, an out-of-state public university or a private college or university. Look for this term merit aid, sometimes the term automatic freshman scholarships. Dig into this a little bit. Little shout out to our friends down in the greater Kansas City area. I'm going to show you some numbers from KU, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, and some Madison-based numbers here too. And I know we've got people from all around the country, which is great. So just as an example, these are automatic freshman scholarships for out-of-state students at the University of Kansas. And you can see this down here, the excellence, distinction, and achievement. It's a sliding scale with your cumulative GPA unweighted and your ACT score. And I'm using this comparison to UW-Madison, because those of us living in UW-Madison, we know about what it costs, and that's just tuition fees. That's not room and board, that's not books, that's not pizza money, et cetera, a little over 10,000. And we all think, well, I can go to Minnesota too, because it's the same price. No, when I cross the river and become a gopher, I'm paying their prices. That's what reciprocity is. It's still a fantastic bargain, but it's not the same. So the great news at a place like KU that's giving out-of-state merit aids is these things are, we're going to do some math. We're going to subtract these from the much higher out-of-state public costs. I don't pay taxes in Kansas. I don't have any plan to do so at any point. It's a wonderful place. But if our son went down there, we'd be paying $28,574. But we take away these merit aid scholarships. And those are not just the first time, and you don't have to write a bunch of essays and go for interviews. These are automatic. And this is one of the ways that you really get paid back for the great things that you've done. So if I'm pounding out a 3.25 and a 24, I've brought the cost down to something close to the reciprocity from Minnesota. I bump it up to the next one. I'm actually doing a little bit better than across the border. And if I've really got good GPA and ACT, yeah, I'm going to be paying essentially in-state. Proud papa moment, just for the next 30 seconds. Joe toured KU, and we know people that have gone to KU, family and friends, and he really liked it. He was accepted. He ended up not going there, but he busted his butt to get to those excellence numbers. And he got just above the 3.75 and above the 30. And created these opportunities, not just at this school and at others. But that's definitely something that you should be looking into now. Now, these might change. And one of the questions someone had is, what's going to happen with merit aid based on COVID-19? I don't know, but I can see a couple of things. First of all, there's a major trend in higher education. The number of high school seniors is going down, especially from certain parts of the country, certain demographics, et cetera. So in that way, it helps our buying power a little bit, and the number of students available for colleges getting really good grades, good test scores, those types of things. That's a smaller pool even within that. From that standpoint, I think that colleges are maybe a little bit nervous about students not showing up, and they may start to entice, is a strong word, but offer this and maybe more in terms of merit aid. The flip side of that is they kind of took a hit this past spring when a lot of students were forced to move out of dorms, and colleges basically refunded housing costs, and they've been going through a lot of costs as well. So I don't have the crystal ball on that. And all I can do is look at the costs right now and look at the merit aid scholarships and move forward with that. Standardized testing. We talked a little bit about test optional and what's changed. The April 4th ACT was canceled. That was a big blow to us around here and a lot of the students we were working with. And SAT has canceled some dates too. And some colleges are going test optional, right? And students and families have been very nervous, and rightly so. You know, if you hire a test prep coach, whether it's on campus, whether it's anybody, that's a big investment, not just in terms of time for your student, but the cost as well. And so you need to know, what are the chances that we're actually going to be able to use this and test, right? Well, historically, the ACT or the SAT has been the number 3 thing in terms of what colleges are looking for. And as I said, that's always going to benefit you. And ACT actually came out in the same week when SAT said June test is canceled. ACT said, we're going to try to go forward with June 13th and July 18th. And both of those test companies are doing, I think, some good things in terms of adding some other options. SAT is going to add a September option. We're going to get to that in just a second. They're both looking at some ways that students might be able to test at home. None of that's available right now, right? So we need to keep our eye on this. And in some ways, if a college is still requiring standardized tests, and maybe you don't have that last semester GPA because you are on a pass-fail, standardized test scores may be even more important. In terms of what you should do, freshmen, I guess you can just chill on that one. And seniors, also, you don't have to worry about this because you're done with that. Yeah. Do you think college will? Okay, I'll get to that. All right. Sophomores, take a full-length practice exam before July 14th. Nothing magical about July 14th other than a holiday. And we're going to talk about a virtual practice exam you can take with us. But this is part of just good planning to kind of see what your scores might be. And juniors, as of right now, it is game on. So check with the colleges that are in your shopping cart, right? And look to see, are they now test optional? Were they test optional? Even call them. That's what I did. I called UW La Crosse this past week because I'm getting a lot of people talking to me about standardized test scores. That's a big part of our business. We help a lot of students raise their ACT score. And I just wanted to make sure that we're not selling people something that they don't need. And the assistant admissions director that I spoke to said, yeah, we're still requiring the ACT or SAT, no plans to go away from that. And I don't think anyone else in the UW system is going to do that anytime soon. So those are good conversations to have as well. Thank you. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit more. Oh, and this was Hillary's brilliant idea. So I'm going to be proctoring this. It's a virtual practice exam. We've never done it, obviously, but this Saturday from 8 a.m., this is Central Time, right? 8 a.m. to 11:30. What we're going to do is we're going to get a bunch of students on Zoom. Hillary did this recently for one student. We're going to do this for more students, and you can register on our homepage from our website. There's the URL, and if you click virtual practice exam, we'll get you set up where you can either print out the test at home and the answer sheet, or if you need us to, we can ship that to you. So please do that relatively soon. But this is just one option, especially for you sophomores that are like, well, I was going to go take a test, but I can't take it anywhere. Yeah, you can. I will be your proctor. I'll give you the 5-minute warning. And it's also going to be a good learning experience just in terms of what's it like to take a full-length practice ACT. So please sign up for that. Okay, creating a personalized testing plan. So things to think about. I'm going to jump down so I can talk about all of these at once. Let's say you're a junior, right? Seniors, you're done with this. But juniors, this is like, what do I do now? Well, it's a fallacy to think that there are no more ACT or SAT dates. And in fact, you can be testing even into the beginning of your senior year, right? So I would be thinking about, when is the best time for me to prep on my own with a test prep coach in an online program, whatever it might be. When do I have the time to devote to this? And when can I put in quality reps? Because this is generally not something where you watch one video and you get better. You got to work at it a little bit. And then in terms of very real numbers, be looking up on collegedata.com or on a particular college's website, look up that middle 50% range. And all that means is the students that were accepted last year, their middle 50% ACT range, for instance, UW-Madison was 27 to 31. That's not an automatic guarantee at 27. That's just where statistically half of the students fell. And then think about what score makes sense with your academics. And then look to see at a place like KU and a lot of other places, would a higher score benefit me by raising my merit aid? Where and exactly how much, right? So in terms of this kind of wheel of test prep, this is 2020. We canceled we didn't cancel, ACT canceled the April, SAT canceled May, and then the June 6th, but the others are on. And the one that's new is going to be in September. And what I'm seeing is it's going to be middle towards the end of September. So let's talk in practical terms about how might that impact you if you don't have the time, or you're a little bit nervous about signing up for a test until we get a little bit further in and maybe things are in better shape in terms of coronavirus. Well, if you're a senior, most applications will start about September 1st. You can submit applications September 1st, and then there's often an early notification period, or what we sometimes call early action, that runs from September 1st until November 1st. So in really easy terms, think of Labor Day to Halloween. That's generally when I want to get my applications in. But then there's another period after that, and most colleges will tell you that it doesn't matter to them when you apply. It just impacts when you get the decision from them. So if you're all wrapped up with everything and you're submitting your applications by September 1, great. And you've got a few test dates for the ACT and even one in August for the SAT that could work for that. If you say, no, I want to wait a little bit, but I do want to test again, even in September, well, you still may be able to get your scores back by November 1, or you may, in some cases, need to apply to that second period. A lot of schools have a regular decision deadline of January 1, January 15, February 1. There's nothing to say that they're going to move those back. Again, some things are changing, and that might change as well. We get a ton of seniors taking kind of one last swing at it, usually in that early September test. So think about that. And then for sophomores, this is really important also. Don't just turn a blind eye to this and think, well, he's just talking to juniors. Sophomores should be thinking about, when are the best times for me to test? And if you're in a state like Wisconsin that does what we call a state mandated exam date, either for the ACT like we do here or the SAT, that's one test, but there's nothing saying you can't take it before then. What we encourage juniors to do, sophomores leading into juniors, is to think about, when can you prepare for and take an ACT exam before holidays of your junior year. So for ACT terms, that would be September 12th or October 24th or December 12th. Instead of waiting for next year, it'll be March 9th, 2021 in the state of Wisconsin, but you don't necessarily have to wait for that. Let me address one thing. Someone asked a question. Do you think colleges will offer less aid if kids need to start virtually? I'm not sure, to be quite honest. And I've been thinking about tuition. If we are starting virtually, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. My hope and maybe my assumption, which is a dangerous thing, is that there might be some reduced costs. I don't think they're going to slash prices or anything like that. I think they're going to lower costs, but that's not a guarantee. If they're starting virtually, I would doubt that they're going to offer less aid. That's my initial. I'll be thinking about this as Stephanie talks. So I'm going to hand the baton over to Stephanie. She's going to talk about student athletes and how these things are impacting. And then we're going to come back. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the admissions process and applying to college, and do some other wrap up as well. So Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening. I'm hopefully going to give you some information that will really help you along your college athletic recruiting process, and I'm going to really focus on this evening on what we can do. And so Tom's going to pull up a slide here that's going to talk about what's changed in the college recruiting process. So what we, over this time period, some things that are a little bit different than the normal thing that would be happening through your college recruiting process. So Tom, can you go ahead and pull that next slide up?
Yep.
Thank you. Here's what's changed. The NCAA has extended the current dead period through May 31st. What that means is college athletes right now aren't able to be seen at some of these tournaments that they may have had throughout the spring. So some of you, as you're well aware with what's going on with COVID, is we're not able to compete in these athletic contests that are going on. And for some of you, these were probably key times that you were going to be seen by college coaches. So that's extended through May 31st. That also includes campus tours. So you can't be on campus either, meeting with any college coaches, which means all those official campus tours are suspended. College coaches would typically be meeting with and evaluating recruiting athletes in person at this point in time as well. So if you were being recruited right now, this is the time period, depending on the NCAA rules for your age, that college coaches would be seeing you in person. And now college athletes or college prospective athletes have a lot of unexpected time on their hands as well. The big thing that I want to get across to you right now is that college coaches are really good at their job. And I've been on several webinars similar to this one, but with panels of college coaches at the Division I, II, Division III level, NAI, and junior college. And one thing that we've been reassured is that college coaches are really good at their jobs, and they're going to find competitive athletes out there because they want to stay competitive within their conferences as well. So one of the reasons why I watch a lot of these webinars and I'm involved with this is I'm also a club volleyball coach. So I also have student athletes that are being recruited right now. So really wanting to look out for their best interests. And I also used to coach in college as well. So I also used to be on the other end of this too, watching college athletes play and compete. This is a big one right now, and yes, this is something that remains the same, but I think this is something that you're even doing a better job of right now, is because you as a student athlete in high school have more time in your hands. And so therefore college coaches are going to have additional time to build relationships with their prospective student athletes. And something to keep in mind here, that this is a two-way relationship, is that you're getting to know those college coaches and they're getting to know you. So as Tom talked about earlier, you really find that university of you. Your outreach, and this remains the same, but there may be different ways of you going about doing it right now, can differentiate yourself from other student athletes that are out there. And your online recruiting profiles and other ways that coaches help to find you are things that you can be doing right now to really help your recruiting process. You can go to the next. Thank you, Tom. And so what can you do right now to take action? And I separated these out by grade, but I want you to understand that these are really fluid actions that you can be taking between your freshman to senior year. We encourage you to take a peek at that NCAA guide for the college-bound student athlete, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later. But know that some of these action steps that we have listed here are really fluid as you go through your recruiting process. Because you can see as we go on to seniors, researching athletic and academic aid at your target schools. I mean, this is something that you could be doing sooner as well, and understanding your NCAA academic requirements. And I'll talk a little bit later about how those have changed due to COVID-19 and how the NCAA is offering a little bit of flexibility this year for those seniors that are going to go into college in the fall. You can go to the next slide, Tom. All of these action steps can be even taken now in the midst of a pandemic. So as Tom mentioned earlier, we have a sophomore as well, and she did her first college tour virtually the other day. So Tom, I'm going to have to get our daughter on her next one so that she fills in her goal for a sophomore getting on 2 virtual college visits. And she had a great opportunity to be on this visit as well. And she was one-on-one with an admissions rep. So it was great practice for her in really looking at what she might be interested in as she makes her college decision too. So we're right along with you as our family is moving along through this process too. You can head to the next one. So there are some action steps that you can be taking. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is that we want to understand the NCAA guidelines. Those differ by division. Also junior college, NAI are going to have different guidelines that they follow through the recruiting process. But if you decide that you want to be a student athlete in college, is first thing that I would do is talk to your current high school and club coaches. They're really key resources. So, you know, for me personally, even on our balanced volleyball club that I own and operate, I used to be a college coach, so we have resources to all those college coaches that I used to have relationships with and continue to do so, as well as my assistant Andrea, who was a Division I coach and a national champion and coached with the Wisconsin Badgers. So they have key resources in your recruiting process, and just making sure that they're aware of your wanting to be a college athlete. Great. And then, like I mentioned earlier, read that NCAA guide for the college-bound student athlete that dictates when and how you can contact college coaches at the specific age levels that you're at. You can go to the next slide. And then this is a big one right now, because you are able to be online. So making sure that whatever recruiting profiles that are available for your sport, that you're on them and that you're using them. Some of them might be for pay. Oftentimes you just can create a free recruiting profile, and we encourage our student athletes that we work with at on-campus college planning that this is something that you can do on your own. This isn't something that you necessarily have to pay a service to do this for you. But it's really critical right now that you're keeping them up to date. You're keeping your highlight films up to date. You can update those. You can even show film of you maybe out in your backyard, or if you're a basketball player shooting around with your mom or dad. They, college coaches have more time on their hands. They're going to be watching those videos, and it's critical for you right now to just have a great online recruiting profile. As I mentioned, keeping your social media accounts positive and a reflection of your personal values is also really important. Understand that college coaches are going to be digging around on the internet. You're in competition with other student athletes as well. So maybe by your position or the particular sport that you play. And so those are going to be differentiators for you as you're going through the college recruiting process. Are you keeping those social media accounts positive, up to date? And like I said, they're just going to be spending more time online looking over those highlight films that you may have out there. And then as Tom talked a little bit about too, is really research your schools. And you're going to research those schools that, we call that your university of you. You're going to find that great fit for yourself. So, you're going to be researching those schools along athletic lines. So, the different levels of play that you can play at, where you're at academically and what you want to study, what it looks like socially at that college or university. And a great way to really figure that out is to attend camps and clinics of those target schools that you're looking at. I strongly encourage you to do that. Hopefully some of the restrictions will be lifted with COVID-19 and you'll be able to attend some of those camps and clinics, but that's a real big to do, I would say, is once we are able to go back and do that, is try to get on those university campuses. Then you can meet the teams that you may possibly have an opportunity to play on at some point, and then just make sure they're financial and geographical fits for you. So if it's important for you that your mom and dad see you play, be looking at schools that are within a radius that they might be able to get to your games or matches. And Tom talked about this earlier too, is colleges have pivoted in the midst of the pandemic, and they're really good at their jobs. They're going to have these robust tours and visit opportunities that you can do from home right now. So especially if you're a freshman, sophomore, or heading even into your junior year, know that you can take these virtual tours, and it's a great way for you to get a good idea of what's going on in those colleges and universities. Yes, and then phone calls and emails to admissions reps. Not only can, if you're a junior or senior, especially, can you be talking to those college coaches, but maybe a phone call or an email to admissions rep. I just had a Division II admissions rep that I did a short little Zoom call with the other day, and asked him a lot of questions about his college and university, what separates their university from others. And boy, I got a lot of great information from him and how they work closely with college coaches through the recruiting process to really merge what's going on in the athletic department with what's going on in the college and university that you're looking at. And this is a big one that you can be doing right now. And this really depends on the age of your student athlete. So are you a sophomore, are you a freshman, are you a junior or senior? Because this all depends on NCAA rules and regulations about how you can communicate. June 15th is a big date coming up, especially if you're going to be a rising junior and you're finishing your sophomore year. For most sports, that's the date where they can start calling you on the telephone. It's also a date they can start making offers as well. So, and if you're anything before that, you can always be making one-way email communications. And a big thing that I would talk about in this area is making sure that comes from your student athlete. This is the big part here where college coaches want to hear from your student and your student athlete, making sure that that's coming from their email, it's coming in the email's coming in their words. And we have some additional resources on this as well in our College Bound Confidence site, of how to make great phone calls, how to write emails. And right now you can register for that for $5 on collegeboundconfidence.com. And you can use that coupon code, and it gives a great way for you to begin making phone calls. That's something that you can practice with your student athlete ahead of time as well, and keep a journal of those phone calls and maybe some of those questions that you're consistently asking of some of those colleges and universities that you're interested in. So once there's once some of these COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, start to visit those schools where there's mutual interest or those target schools. Try to do this sooner rather than later. These are unofficial visits, so this is something that really hasn't changed once you're able to get on those colleges and universities, especially if you're a freshman or sophomore. Visit the office of admissions, get on those campuses unofficially. Official visits then are those visits that are paid for by colleges and universities. And so they're going to happen, likely right before your junior year. And so just be watching with the NCAA. They've changed some of their regulations and restrictions, and that dead period is, until May 31st right now. And we'll just have to wait and see. Like Tom mentioned earlier, we don't have a crystal ball right now to really see what's going to happen there. Continue to pursue these virtual visits, and then official visits can take place typically after 8/1 of before your junior year, where colleges and universities can actually pay for those visits that you're going on. Yeah, schedule your ACT exam. So have you taken your ACT if you're a sophomore or junior? This is an important part of your academic record. You can earn merit and admissions at your top schools of choice, and you want to understand how that works. I know for us, we have two Big Ten athletes actually in our family. And one of Caitlin's questions for her final schools that she was looking at is, can I combine my athletic and academic aid? And am I able to, are those able to be in addition to one another? And one school, yes, that we were capable of having that happen. And another school, no, they were not capable or able to do that. So that differs by institution, by sport, by what level of play that you're playing at, the kind of aid that they can offer as well. And then, like I mentioned, NCAA is going to have a minimum of 16 core courses that you're going to need to take for Division I and Division II. You're going to have a minimum GPA for Division I, it's a 2.3 in your core courses, and then a qualifying test score. So that's what's changed now. If you've seen some of the changes with COVID-19, is that they're adding some flexibilities to the grads of 2020, in that they're not looking at that ACT or SAT score at the moment. So you may hear a lot of news and hubbub about that. That they haven't gone any further with that, other than to say that's for the 2020 grads at this point. You'll need to graduate from high school, and then finally that you're going to request your final certification from the NCAA upon graduation, that you are able to compete as a college athlete.
Okay.
Tom's going to flip over into a few other things with college applications and admissions, but if you have any additional questions, if you have a student athlete, feel free, and I'll take a peek as we're going through and try to answer those questions too. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, and Stephanie, just to be blunt, if I don't know, if I'm a baseball player or a track athlete or a softball player and my season was canceled, am I just done, or like, is my dream over, or how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I would just really strongly encourage, Tom, for you to reach out to those colleges that you may be interested in, and those coaches that you may be interested in, and get any highlights film that you may have. I'm really focusing on right now, and I think we are as well at on-campus college planning, and what we can do right now. And then in some ways, you could probably build stronger relationships during this time period if you're willing to be proactive. And so I know that for a lot of the young student athletes, they really are questioning whether or not, I'm capable of doing that. But just know, college coaches are used to talking to teenagers, and they want to build a relationship with you, and they're really trying to see what you're going to do for them, maybe even 4 and 5 years from now, depending on how old you are. So know that they're predicting athletic ability and what you're going to do for them down the road, and they're really good at that.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And Stephanie's going to hang around. And folks, if you've got, I've got about 5 more minutes and then kind of do some wrap up. And if you've got questions, she'll still be available to answer questions as well. And I'm going to give you her contact information. So let's talk in really practical terms about applications and admissions. And this is going to highlight information more for seniors and juniors. And that's kind of where the big stress is. So we know that most summer orientations have been canceled or moved online. And fall semester, people are starting to create contingency plans. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. So a lot of juniors would be focused on AP exams and finals and spring sports and your school's play and things like that. And some of that has changed. So the opportunity for juniors is to get out ahead and to start working on some of the pieces. We've had a couple of real go-getters just say, can I start working with Hillary on my applications and my essays? Yeah, it doesn't mean you can submit those earlier, but they're working on some things right now that they maybe wouldn't have been able to do. And to get some of those pieces ready, probably the earliest applications that I know of can go in July 1. And we like to do the heavy lifting usually in the late spring and over the summer to get ready for that. Like I said, typical Labor Day to Halloween type of thing, but there's no reason to not think about that. One of the biggest things that I want to focus on is right here in the middle and there. It just is not true that colleges are just going to drop all the requirements and say, anybody come in, we'll take the first 1,000 or whatever. That's not what's going to happen. So students, you need to be doing what you can do in the classroom. If it's all pass fail, great. Get a pass, start working on your college list, reach out to coaches, do virtual tours, fill in the gap because now, frankly, you may not have the excuse of I don't have time to do this. A lot of us, unfortunately, do have more time. And those virtual visits, colleges are always going to want to see that you're interested in them as well. And it's absolutely a good time to reach out to someone in admissions and just to say, you know, my name is Justin. I'm a sophomore at such and such high school. I have some questions, and to start to develop a relationship with that person in admissions. So focusing just on juniors and seniors. Juniors, I'm going to go through another slide in just a second, so I'll save that. Seniors, if you haven't accepted an offer of admission, first of all, check to see if they've adjusted the dates. It used to be that May 1st was the national decision day, right? Now, a lot of colleges have pushed that back, and as they've had to adjust. And the things that you'd normally be doing, finding a roommate, attending orientation, we're going to show you how you can do as many of those things as possible. So for juniors, you have to know, and I've been talking to colleges, and they don't have an answer of, oh, this is exactly how we're going to respond. But keep this in mind, folks. What's happened to you and you not being able to compete or take these classes, et cetera, that's probably happening for a majority of students out there. So it's less about feeling like I'm behind or this is just happening to me. It's happening to all of us, and colleges are going to have to adjust to this as well. It's absolutely true that we can expect them to be reasonable. They're on your side. They want great kids like you and great families like you. So there's no reason that we need to think that this is a us versus them type of thing. But they're just not going to drop every requirement, and you're not going to get into Harvard with a 2.0 and not showing them your ACT score. And I'm not even going to make a joke about buying your way into that. So be aware that most of the standards that have been in place in terms of test scores and GPAs and things like that, we need to assume, until told otherwise, that that's what's going to be happening for you, juniors. So move forward with that process as if things are going to move forward. In some ways, you juniors have an advantage. I know you don't feel that way, but you have an advantage over the seniors because you've got some more time for things to sort out. Seniors, here's the deal. No college, to my knowledge, no college in America has either set a deadline for making a decision or has said we're pushing everything online or we're not going to have classes in the fall. There was sort of this story about Boston University that went out and people misinterpreted it. And all Boston University was saying is we're talking about contingency plans. We're preparing if things don't get better. We may need to either delay the start of our school year or we may need to go online. They didn't say they're going online. There are a number of places that have canceled summer programs, and that's to be expected. But one of our big goals here is getting you ready for what's going to happen in the fall. And everybody is working on contingency plans. You have to understand that higher education in general isn't particularly nimble. It's like a giant ship and it only turns a little bit at a time. And they've had to put everything online basically, and they weren't prepared to do that. And there have been mixed reviews. And, you know, we've got a college kid at home taking online courses. Some of you may have older students that are doing that. And it's a mixed bag. You have to understand that most professors and instructors weren't trained to do this. In the same way that most high school, middle school, elementary school teachers, they didn't have a lot or any training of how to conduct classes online, right? And the online experience that we're going to see in the fall, there's every reason to expect that universities and colleges are going to be doing everything they can to make sure that things are better than what they just were. And I mentioned that already. So options. We all have options. If the college of your dreams, senior, goes online this fall, number one, you can move forward and begin life as a college student, right? If Joe Kleese wants to attend the school that we haven't formally announced that he's going to attend, we announce other kids first. He can absolutely go forward with that. And that's a discussion that we're going to have. One decision that we have made as a family is, look, you're welcome to stay here, through the middle of August as you normally would. And Jack, who is home from the University of Memphis, he's welcome to stay there. But if they're taking online courses, the expectation is you need to move out, get an apartment, wherever that might be. Take the one dog that you brought back from Memphis with you, Jack. We will support you, but we didn't expect to have you living in our basement. And part of that maturation process is living on your own and doing these things. And so that's an option that we're strongly considering. I don't know if they're going to reduce tuition, and I just can't say that they will or won't. And I think they're going to be a lot of different responses as far as that goes. If it's all online, will I get a discount? Deferring your enrollment, you absolutely could defer your enrollment and take some kind of a gap year or just wait a semester. But the reason defer enrollment is highlighted in red is because, pardon me, you can't just not show up and tell them. Deferring enrollment is a formal process. Most colleges have some type of policy in place already. If you get to the end of your senior year and you just say, I want to go on a mission trip, I want to do some traveling, I want to work for a while before I go off to college. Most colleges, you can say, I want to come a year later, and they'll be like, yeah, okay, fill out this form. We'll have a spot for you next year. But you have to make sure you can't make any assumptions for that. You can kind of go local. And by going local, I mean not moving off to go to that college that you were planning to go to and taking some classes at a local community college, or you can be taking online courses from any college really. And then you can transfer those credits in, because maybe you're looking at a more expensive out-of-state or private option. And you think, well, I'll just do my gen eds at home and then transfer those. That may work very well. You need to understand this. About a third of all undergraduate students at some point in their college career transfer, or at least transfer some credits. And a large proportion of credits do not transfer, because historically this has been a very territorial thing. And college X doesn't want to award transfer credits for college Y unless it absolutely lines up with everything they've done. I think that that's going to be better, but please, please, please do not assume that you're just going to take classes at a community college or Southern New Hampshire University online, and it's absolutely going to fit with what your college is going to require. You're going to need to talk to them. You're going to need to talk to both parties. You're going to need to do some more homework and even ask about this geeky thing that people like me refer to, articulation agreements. That's a formal agreement between your university and usually a two-year college that says our English 101 will fit in place of your English 101. You may need to pursue multiple paths and think about some different options, just as we are thinking about different options and talking about those with our kids. ACE is just American Council on Education. I like this. They came out with a statement the other day just saying we're really encouraging all the organizations that we work with in higher ed to be more transparent about transferring credits and to really work with people to make sure that we can transfer as much as possible. So I think that last part is putting hopefully a positive spin on things. One of the questions is just about housing. Should we even, fill out a housing request and submit our deposit? Again, I'm turning to my own kid, not because he's amazing or wonderful. He's pretty darn good, but we're going through this too. We submitted a $150 deposit to the college of his choice with the idea that we hope it goes through. We hope he gets to head off to college in the fall, and we get to go to college football games and take him out to dinner and all that kind of good stuff, right? So we're doing that. I would be talking with the colleges where you're thinking of saying yes and ask them, is this a refundable deposit? A lot of colleges have pushed this back a month or so, and they're also lowering the costs. And quite a few colleges returned the unspent portion of room and board that students who were living on campus and then had to vacate had not used. So be talking to those colleges individually as well. Okay, I'm going to kind of wrap things up, and then again, I want to get some more questions from you folks, and we'll stay on as long as you want. We have a lot of experience here. We don't know everything, but we sure know a lot of things, and we focus on this. I wake up thinking about college. I go to bed usually watching Netflix, but somewhere in there I'm thinking about college as well. And we do have a lot of experience in this. We do a lot of one-on-one coaching. It's all via Zoom right now. We also have this coaching community online that I'm going to tell you about in just a second. And we know that we can help you navigate that path to the University of U with less stress and less mess and more confidence, right? And especially if you're interested in playing sports, Stephanie is a fantastic resource, and we would like to connect you with her so she can help in that process. We'd love to boost your scores, help you find that right college, and really put your best foot forward as you apply. Possible next steps. Take us up on the offer, right? It doesn't matter where you live. If you just have more questions, or if I didn't go into as much depth as you would like, go to our website, right? You can even get there from this Facebook page. You can set up a free consult. We can do it via phone. We can do a Zoom call, hopefully, again, in person at some point. But please do that. I would love to connect with you. And if you'd rather talk with Stephanie, we can do that, or even Hillary. We'll make sure that you connect with as many people on our team as you need to. There's our website. And as I said, we're doing everything via Zoom right now, and it works pretty well. And I've been using it for a long time as well. You can also get weekly updates on free college planning resources and tools by signing up for that on our website. And yes, we're doing our own little stimulus package. So we extended this another week. $100 off our three, what we used to call one-on-one coaching packages, the standard premium platinum, that's through April 24th. And that applies if you're taking a June, July, or September ACT. So I just got off the phone or a Zoom call earlier today with a sophomore who hasn't finished up sophomore year, but he and I are going to start on June 23rd at 1 p.m. prepping for the September 12th ACT. And we have all of his sessions. Mom and dad got a discount. And oh, by the way, we stacked on the sibling discount on that as well. And we also decided, and we've wanted to do this for a long time, but it seemed to make the most sense. We've got an online option that's also discounted as well. And that's great for really self-directed students. If you don't describe yourself as self-directed, we probably shouldn't think about that. And we love to work with families in a comprehensive college planning package starting as early as freshman year. And there's some great things that we can do to kickstart this and give you guidance every step of the way. College Bound Confidence that Stephanie mentioned, this is something we just launched in the last month. It's an online coaching community. We've got some great resources up there for student athletes. A lot of things on money and how to pay for college. I go really heavy into that. And there's also a College Bound video series that you can sign up for. And yes, as Stephanie mentioned, the first month for College Bound Confidence is just $5. Jump online, be the dad like me, grab all the resources you can, but we hope you stick around because we're putting out extra or more information every week. We're pulling in other people that know things that we don't know about this whole process. And that's a great way for us to connect and really help you throughout this process. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We try to put new information up there multiple times a week. And you certainly see my face more than maybe you should, but and let us know what you would like to see, okay? More training videos and things like that. There's my email and my cell, and there's Stephanie and her cell. And I'm going to turn it over to Hillary. Are there other questions that? Okay. Are there? I'm trying to think of the list of questions and if I've adequately addressed everything. Do you happen to have that email in front of you? Okay. Great time to post another comment down there. No one's really asked about college football. That's kind of high on my list of things, but probably not the most important. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so here was the questions if you want to.
Okay. All right. And I'm not identifying people, but I'm just looking at this. What will 2021 admissions process look? Does test optional mean that my students' high scores will not factor into decisions? No, your student, I mean, that's like a card in your hand if we're thinking about playing cards. That high test score, ACT or SAT, absolutely will continue to help your student. And everything that we're seeing right now is that this is a very similar process for the class of 2021 as to what it was last year. Moms of some sophomores are just sort of asking, where should my kid go, or how do we even get started? It seems maybe it's too simple, but do a couple of those virtual tours, and mom or dad sit here, students sit over here, and then talk about it afterwards and start to think about, how do you fill out that little chart? What do you really need from your college experience? What would you like? What do you not need? What do you not like? And compare a couple of colleges and dig into things like departmental web pages. Sounds kind of geeky, but who are the professors? What type of research are they doing? What special programs? You know, how do you differentiate a mechanical engineering program at Purdue versus Colorado State? What's the impact of COVID on merit scholarships? There hasn't been any announcement that those things are going to change. I think much of the merit aid is going to stay the same. And the question that we had about, will they offer less aid? I think that would be tied. If we are going virtual, they may reduce the aid only if they're reducing the costs. I don't think merit aid is going to go away anytime soon. How will not being able to take ACT tests impact college admissions policies? You still can take ACT tests. So it's a bit of a delay, unfortunately, right? But they're still on. And again, if you're a junior, yeah, so the ACT is on for June 13th. These are Saturdays, and July 18th. And they also offered kind of a makeup test day. So if your high school says, well, we can't run it on June 13th, but we can do it the week after, ACT is going to work with them to do that. And you can even contact your site test coordinator. So that SAT, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to add something on top of that as well. I think especially if you have a student athlete right now that is not able to participate in their spring sports, club sports are in question. It's always a little tricky scheduling that ACT test at a time when they're not really super busy. So I would strongly encourage you, having been through this a couple times with our older kids as well that are competing already in college, is strongly encourage you to look at those ACT tests now that are falling over this summer, especially if you have a rising junior, if you have a sophomore finishing up their year, that those test dates in June and July might be like gold for you, because you might be able to, take these tests and have time to prepare for these tests at a time where you're just less busy. And it's always hard to kind of carve out a time. And I know, Tom, we work with a lot of student athletes. Could you speak a little bit more to that and carving out that time to take that ACT?
Sure. And yeah, and that usually we're looking at a schedule, and I'm going to run back to a slide here for just a second so we can see it. Pardon me for just a second. I just want to escape. And
Stephanie, another thing you might want to just elaborate on is some of the sports schedules I'm seeing when they do start up may be condensed, which is just, or sort of even busier than usual, kind of, which is to your point about good to get it in now.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to get it in now, because like Hillary said, I think once that we're allowed to do things, I think it's going to be kind of full bore ahead as far as maybe some of that scheduling, and we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but scheduling that ACT at a time for them. And Tom uses a graph sometimes actually that he has pulled up about how making all these decisions through your sophomore, junior, and senior year, how we can help to those not be all on top of one another.
Yeah. This little wheel here, and there's a lot of information, but just sort of pick an SAT or ACT depending on which state you're at. And it bears repeating that colleges will accept either one. So if you live in California, you take an ACT, you want to come to UW-Mass, and we'd love to have you, and we will accept your SAT. You don't have to take an ACT, and we would expect you to do the same. And that's true. So parents, students, look at one of those and think about, when is the time that works best for me, and leading up a month or two to get some good quality prep work. because we're usually trying to fit this in like during a season where I'm air quotes just playing club or something, and it's not my varsity season, or I'm a hockey player. So get a lot of hockey players who are trying to prep in the fall because they don't have as much training going on in the fall, and they want to be done by the time they're really getting into the heavy season. Same thing with basketball, all of that. So we're trying to find the time that's best. One thing that, Stephanie is the student athlete coach here, but something I can tell you from experience is we have been very blessed to work with some really talented athletes who did a great job in the classroom and knocked it out of the park on their ACT scores. And that really opened up, excuse me, some doors for them in terms of colleges that frankly, it would be a real long shot to get into if they weren't prospective college athletes, but they looked very attractive to those coaches, Ivy League, Division I, et cetera, with nice skills on the court or on the field, in the pool, whatever it might be, on the rink, good GPA, wonderful kids. And oh, by the way, they've got good ACT scores. So those can only hurt you, never help you. They can only help you. We got to redo this whole thing now. They can only help you, not hurt you. Maybe most people aren't watching. All right. Anything else to add?
Ask Stephanie if there are other questions.
Okay. Stephanie, any other questions that you would like me to speak to or that you would like to address? We've still got some people on.
Yeah, I think what you just said last there, Tom, especially if you have your student athletes and, depending on the level that you're looking at playing at, one is that strong ACT score can do really two great things for you if you're a student athlete. Is one, open those doors to maybe the next level of school that you might be looking at from an academic standpoint. And then also maybe that university that you are looking at, it opens up some doors for some merit aid that you may or may not have been eligible for. And I know for one of our kids, that's exactly what that did. And it was a significant amount of money then that she was eligible for because she was able to work with you and really knock that ACT score out of the park. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Last thing to wrap up, folks. We've talked a lot about taking the steps that you can take right now. And maybe I didn't make this obvious, but yeah, this stinks. I mean, it all stinks. And I'm not belittling the serious health consequences and things like that, but this throws a lot of extra wrinkles, and this may result in not knowing things as long and having to wait and prepare more. And we may have to imagine heading down several paths. That's what the Kleeses are doing. We're imagining several different paths, and we're trying to prepare for those. Nobody's has a get out of jail free card on this. We're still needing to do the work and be prepared as best as we can. And then a month from now, we'll see where we're at, and another month from now, and God willing, we're all healthy and we can return to some form of normalcy and get kids off. Because if you're a parent of a senior, you want your kid to go to college this fall. You love them. You want to go visit them, and then you want to come home. And that's what we're hoping for. So again, please follow up with us. And if we can help, we would love to. We really would. And if you're not sure, well, I'm not sure what help I need, schedule a follow-up Zoom, or pop me an email, a text, phone call. We'll talk about it before you rush into anything. But we'd love to do whatever we can and answer questions as best as we can.
And
all right.
We'll put the PDF of the slide deck in the comments.
And we will put a PDF of the slide deck in the comments for you as well. For Stephanie, for Hillary, and for Tom from somewhere in Arizona and from the world headquarters of on-campus college planning in Fitchburg, good night and good college. Have a good one. Trying to get the